Welcome to Newark Made, where we bring you the voices of the people shaping Newark's future. I'm Marcus Randolph, and today we have Justin Williams. He is the managing member behind the forthcoming Newark Culture Club, a performance venue and craft cocktail bar in downtown Newark that promises to add new energy to the city's nightlife. For over a decade, he has consistently produced the City Comedy Revue, introducing audiences to nationally recognized comedians and providing a platform for local talent. He is also a co-host of the Fraudsters podcast and an accomplished academic. He's an associate professor of history and director of African American Studies at the University of Detroit Mercy, and the author of Pan-Africanism in Ghana. Justin, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing my other day job. I hope we get people that want to party, and then we get some readers in the bar too.
There you go. Right. So let's jump right in. But before we get to the questions, let's start off with something a little bit fun, a little icebreaker. So here we go. Is there a lesson you find yourself relearning over and over, no matter how far you've come or what you've accomplished?
Wow. I mean, I think one thing that I'm kind of astonished by is the way that good relationships with people and maintaining those relationships with you sort of pays off at every level, right? Mm-hmm. So even thinking of like the way we book the show, it's like my relationships with comics that I've had for like the last 15 years. Even the relationship to the audience that we have in Newark, it's like, Newark is a place to where if you live here or you're constantly doing programming, you develop relationships with people, and those people really come out and support you. So we have people that have been to the show for like a decade in a row, right? And then even, you mentioned that I teach at University of Detroit Mercy. That's been in the last 2 years where I've been kind of back and forth. And like I was worried about that, being like, how is this going to kind of affect, when people go, they don't see me at Whole Foods downtown as often as they were,
Right.
But the relationships that we had built over that time that, my family was in Newark full time have, it's been like very like seamless, and it's because of the strength of those relationships that we have with people here.
Yeah.
So that's always been kind of like an amazing, kind of reminder, I think.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I mean, every job I've had more than I care to admit, but it's really been about relationships, right? Mm-hmm. People get to know you, know your product, know the type of person you are, and so that's been a consistent thing for me as well. So speaking of a 10 years of a decade of doing this, you've produced the City Comedy Revue almost every month for the last 10 years. It's been on Halsey Street, it's been on Broad Street, now on Gibson Boulevard. So tell us, like, what originally inspired you to start the show? And 10 years is a long time. So what sustains you to keep going over such a long period?
So what's funny is, from a comedic point of view, it's kind of the reason why I want to start a business here. When people say, why Newark? For me, it was always the opposite question. It was like, why is somebody not doing this right here? Yeah. It's like, as a comedian, if you said, man, I wish I could have a market of my own with 300,000 people in the city, plus if it's Essex County, 800,000 people.
Yeah.
And it had direct access to New York City's talent, and it was cheap for them to get there. And it wasn't like an oversaturated market, and it's an enthusiastic group of people that are really supportive of live performance. Mm-hmm. And I was also in a market too where people were looking for, to look at a show for 50 to 100 people, right? We're kind of top heavy in Newark, where, you got NJ Pack, so you're talking like a few thousand seats, right? Even Symphony Hall's a couple thousand seats, right? Or the Prudential Center. Mm-hmm. So if someone's looking for a smaller level, more intimate level performance, I wish I could supply that. And then, I get to be in the heart of downtown where I'm surrounded by one of the best transportation networks. It's easy to get to.
Right.
And parking becomes easier at night in downtown Newark. So it's actually easier for customers to get in, right? So, I was looking at this, coming from shows where we were hustling and struggling in New York City to being like, man, like Newark is awesome. And it also helped that I lived here. As the older I got, I'm like, I'm not trying to go perform in Bushwick for $5 and get home at 2 a.m. Especially once I had a kid, I'm like, there's certain things that I don't want to be doing anymore. God bless if you're out there hustling. But
It's like the economics of comedy is what you just sort of told us about, right? It makes a lot of sense to be here.
Yeah, and once you get to year, sort of 15, I'm a big fan of making money, and a lot. A lot of and that's why a lot of actually comedians have gravitated towards our show,
Yeah.
because we pay better than 90% of the shows in New York. So, they're like, wow, I can go out, have a great enthusiastic audience, and then also get paid money. And then no matter where I kind of live in the metro area, I have like transportation options
Right.
back to it. So for, comedians, they really enjoy coming here, that was kind of also kind of the cool thing about it is people that have never been to Newark before, discovering it, really liking it, and then becoming like regulars on the show. Like, hey man, when can I come back to Newark?
Right.
That's kind of cool.
That's great. Right. So speaking of the talent then, right? So over the years, you've hosted performers who've been on Netflix, Comedy Central, all the national late night shows. So like, what's the impact? What's the impact do you think these acts have had on Newark's cultural reputation? And does that help you in your curating of the talent for your show?
Yeah, it helps me. The best thing is when I have somebody on the show and they get too famous to do the show. To come back and do the show.
Come back, yeah.
Because I'm serious, because that's a cool thing that our audience got to experience. Like, I haven't. People get busy when they get famous, but like, Janelle James from Abbott Elementary has done our show, right? The Lucas brothers did our show, and they're Newark natives. But they're a little bit busier since they got nominated for an Oscar. So to be able to have people have had that experience.
Phone as often, right? And fun, right?
Yeah,
takes longer, right?
Yeah, and you don't take it personally because you understand kind of what their schedules become and things like that. But it's awesome to be a part of having people say, "Hey, man, I remember when you had such and such, and now I see them on this," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're getting a real product at our show. This is not the awkward open mic."
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. You're mentioning names that people probably didn't know have passed through Newark, right? Everybody has to spend their time sort of coming up, but that's awesome. That's awesome. So you're a resident here, so you've seen Newark, grow, change. But people have all kind of different terms they want to say, but it is clear to when you step outside, things are changing here, and people want to see nightlife, a renewed interest in nightlife. We have some restaurants that are opening, lounges, bars opening up downtown. So what is your vision for how your venue will fit in and elevate, the landscape, the entertainment landscape here in the city?
Yeah, I think, part of it is doing the model that we have is kind of like the quality entertainment for intimate sort of audiences. But then it's also having the kind of extended hours. So after our show, one of the elements we're looking to have is like, okay, a headline DJ set, because we have connections not only kind of in the comedy world, but also in the music world. So we want people to come out to a place in Newark where they can dance under a disco ball, have a nice cocktail until 2 a.m. and have that kind of experience, the kind of experience that people, until the kind of pandemic is starting to disrupt that. The things that people were going to Brooklyn for, right? They weren't necessarily like major bottle service club experiences. That's the kind of experience that we're kind of like looking to provide on top of the live entertainment aspect.
Yeah. There's definitely a connection between comedy and music, right? Like, and you, as you mentioned, sort of before the pandemic, right? Going out to venues, and that would sort of be on the agenda for a night, right? There's a comedian coming and it's DJs first, right? So that's great. Looking forward to seeing more of that here. So let's talk shop a little bit. You're pulling off something that not everybody can do, right? You're opening a venue here in Newark. You had to go through all of the, I'm sure, headaches that it takes to open up a business like anybody else does. So you're a recipient of the Newark Retail Reactivation Grant, and you raised capital from some local small investors. So there are people who want to do the exact same thing. Can you share a little insight with folks who are looking to do this combination of sort of a community-based funding, but then also maybe talking to friends and family, or maybe trying to get more traditional funding to make their vision a reality?
Yeah, we were lucky that the fact that we, had lived in Newark and had sort of like, it's like gotten married here. My son, was born here and everything, right? So we had friends kind of that were here, but then we also had friends in New York City. And I always kind of made a point of inviting my friends from New York City to come out in Newark with me at nights, right? And so they kind of saw the same thing that I was seeing. So when I pitched them the idea, do you want to invest in this? We have this opportunity. They were enthusiastic about investing in it because they saw the kind of the same things that I was seeing, right? And then it was great also having relationships with people in Newark, right? Because it was like, hey, you live here, you're part of the nightlife. One of our investors is Zay Little from Newark First Fridays, who's been doing like nightlife and cultural program also for the last decade. So you go to him and you say, hey, we're doing a lot of these things and they're great. What if we did it kind of in our own venue? And we were doing it kind of all the time rather than kind of a pop-up concept, right? So I think that's one of the great things is not only kind of are we at the talent level are we merging kind of like, Newarkers with people from around the region, but that's also reflected in our ownership group to where we have like basically half Newark residents and then half investors that are living in either New York City, and we have like one investor from LA as well, right? But every single investor has, I've taken them to QXTs at 2 a.m.
Right, they got to see it.
Yeah. They know exactly, like they know the geography of where we're at. They know, certain neighborhoods. I've taken them to the Portugal Day Fest. All big. All the kinds of things there.
Right. Yeah, it's a bit of a misnomer, right? That people say there's not things to do, and there's a ton of stuff to do in Newark, right? So I'm glad that you were their host, their escort to show them what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm sort of interested by that argument that there's not things to do in Newark. I always say, there's nothing to do except for the 200 bars that are open late at night. There's bars and clubs everywhere. I think when people use that language, I think they should be careful about that. Because it's like if you have a specific scene that you're into and you're going to dismiss anything that's not part of that, that's one thing. But to say there's nothing to do in Newark is just factually wrong. Right. And I'm like, I have a very open mind of where I like to go out. So, it's like I love going to Marbella Lounge at 2 a.m. up in the North Ward. That is a bar that is open till 3:30 a.m. It's a huge nightclub, actually. It's not even a bar, right? Or, I might go to the Deep Inn if I'm looking for some like a dive bar in the Ironbound, right? Or, if I want to go down to like the South Ward, go down to Torch Lounge, like amazing cigar bar that serves up drinks, and it's a Newark firefighter owns that,
That's right.
Yeah. And so it's like, if you treat Newark as a whole place, especially, you can't say there's nothing to do if you live in the suburbs. Sorry, suburbs. But there's nothing popping in your town at 3 a.m. So you can't say Newark has nothing to do if you live in one of those places. But God bless you, though.
Yep. So we want to share a little data with you, did a little research. So we have discovered that every year Newark residents make over 791,000 visits outside of Newark for leisure, including more than 85,000 trips to theaters and music venues. So how does this data inform the opportunity you see for your venue, Newark Culture Club, to meet unmet demand?
Yeah, I think, I sort of get a sense of that too, because one of the great things about our show has been running for 10 years, but 20% of every show is new customers. And a lot of those new customers are people living in Newark or, kind of like broader Essex County saying, oh, I didn't know this was here, or I didn't know they had comedy in Newark. And so providing kind of a full-time presence for that audience so they can come and see us, right? Because, I get it. Like, if I go to a show at like White Eagle Hall in Jersey City, how many people Newarkers are going to a place like that when they could be going a place in downtown Newark, right? So we're looking to kind of, serve those. The dollars are there. A lot of times they're just leaving the city at night, like you said. Right.
Yeah, but that's what we discovered doing this research on a number of fronts, really. But like the dollars are here, and we got to figure out how to keep them in, but we can see them tracking out. But it's interesting, like when a place opens up and it does very well, people are like, oh, I didn't know you had. It's like, yeah, because people live here do have discretionary, disposable income. And they want to do stuff, right? Just got to give it to them.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing, the way I think people have, for me, a lot of times the way people see Newark is sort of is bizarre. Like not understanding that Newark has a middle class. Yeah, it's like, what do you
Right.
what do you think? People in the Weequahic Historic District and the people in Forest Hill Historic District, or the people paying $900,000 for a
Yeah.
place in Ironbound? It's like, yeah, all of these people sort of exist and they're looking for things to do. So, and we see them at our shows, and a lot of the people that we see actually new Newark residents that represent kind of a new wave of that middle class. Those people also gravitate towards our show because they're like, oh, it's great that I don't have to actually go to Manhattan to see a show. I just bought a house here,
Right.
and we're looking for something to do, right? And
Right.
that audience is like, it's only grown in the last 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we're super excited about the comedy club aspect of it, but it's also going to be a really cool bar as well. I think you'll have some specialty cocktails, and you're showing some of them, I think, maybe on your social media. But can you tell us a little bit more about how you went about curating that, and maybe are there certain brands or people that you're connecting to do this whole bar, especially bar aspect of it?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the point that we made about relationships. And then also kind of thinking about, okay, how do we provide a unique product, but then also a product that kind of celebrates the kinds of things that represent kind of like Newark in a lot of ways, or the things that Newark might be looking for. So one thing is we're not doing any like corporate sourcing for a lot of our drinks. Right, so we're using like black-owned wines, like Lovely Wines, which is made by a wonderful woman from Orange, New Jersey.
Oh, how
has her
about
own
that?
line of
Very
wines
nice.
that's made out in California.
Okay.
We'll be serving those. We'll be serving Kamusha wines from South Africa. It's one of the largest black-owned wineries coming from South Africa. We'll be serving beer from Montclair Brewery, which is a black-owned business that Crumsters are familiar with. They do like a lot of amazing things. We'll be sourcing as locally as possible. We'll actually be getting kegs of beer from Newark Local Beer just across Broad Street.
There we go.
From us, right? And for a lot of our cocktails, the base ingredient will actually be All Points West Distillery products, which is made right here in the Ironbound, right? So my idea is to say that our business is not just like a kind of like a venture that we're coming into Newark. We want to make sure that it's kind of like helping sustain the economy by supporting local products, but then also putting a spotlight on those local products that are just like very amazing.
Right.
Like I would think that if you're having like a cool beer from Montclair Brewery, that's going to be better than the standard Bud Light. No offense to the great people at Bud, or like we'll do a commercial if you offer it. But we like the craft product that's kind of supporting the local economy and kind of at the intersection of locally made and black owned.
Sure.
Is kind of our wheelhouse, right? So providing that unique product and coming into Newark and not just saying, hey, we're putting this thing up for Newarkers. It's like, hey, this might be a thing that you're interested in that supports like your kind of local economy.
Yeah. Love that. It's like, finding ways to bring other people along with your success, getting their product in front of people, and they can experience it when they come to your venue. Right. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and the quality's great. I mean, one of the things
and good
about
quality, right?
Yeah, all of these products are usually like award-winning products. So for me, it's kind of a no-brainer of why would you want to actually go serve like something that maybe has like huge mass distribution. I think giving the audience a unique quality experience is kind of what we're focusing on, and also price wise. Now I may be foolish as hell for this. We'll see. But price wise, we're also not going to do the thing of kind of opening and being kind of like prohibitively expensive. One thing we hope is that you come and you see a show and you have drinks and then you get your tab and you say, wow, I can afford to come back next week. We think that's kind of important to kind of, again, about building relationships, having like a sustainable relationship with our audience, right? So we're trying to be at the intersection of kind of all of those things.
That's great. Well, we want to end by asking you to pay it forward a bit. You've just named a number of businesses that are in Newark and in the area. We're going to ask you, can you shout out one more Newark business that you really love and tell us why you think everybody should check it out?
Oh, wow. Newark business that I really love and everybody should check out. Listen, I've never had anybody say, why did you send me to Casa de Paco?
Okay, there we go.
Casa de Paco, Angel and his team do like an amazing job, amazing decor. It's a very cool space, and I think you can't beat it. But there's a lot of places I go to, like I always try to go to support like all kinds of different places when I'm here because I know like the owners,
right.
And also they make great products, right?
Yeah.
So what Newark is very underrated as a food city too. I'm like, if you want a pan of seafood that will last you 4 days for $30,
right, it's here.
It's Newark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Justin, thanks for coming by. Love the jacket. Hope there's a lot of shots of you in the jacket because it's fantastic. Yeah, people should see that. But really, thank you for coming by today. I know you're busy, but you came by to share your work that you're doing here, your perspective on Newark, your dedication to the culture here is unmatched. We really appreciate it. For all of our listeners, we encourage you to support local venues like Newark Culture Club and continue engaging with the stories and voices that are shaping Newark's future. As always, please subscribe, share this episode, and come back for more conversations with people who are Newark Made. Thank you.